Hello guys, welcome back to a messy workbench. This is Nigel's modelling bench and I'm Nige, as you all know. So this is part 13 of the Scammell build. This is the HobbyBoss Scammell Commander with 62-ton crane through house semi-trailer. And I would say it's a lovely kit, but it's not. It's okay, it's not bad, but it's got a few little greeblies, as you know. So when I left you last time, I was going to put the grill together. I was going to sand out this super glue, as you can see there. I've got super glue down the back there. That's just to support the grill because there's nothing really much to stop it going back. They could have put like a flange along the edge there just to locate it, but they didn't. So there we go. That's that. So that grill is now positively in place. It's got a slight curve across the top, and it goes in like so, just like that. So all good. Right. If you remember, we built up the bonnet as well. We had some gaps down there, so we dealt with them. That was all clamped while it was being glued, all sanded out nicely and everything, so that's good. The cab here, we've got the interior roof painted, we've got the green around there, and then we'll have these panels going in like so. They will go in and you'll have the NATO green inside. We've got a mixture of NATO green and the browns and the horrible chocolatey browns they used, and trying to sort of make it as awful as we can, really, because it was a Leyland product, and if you're British from this period of time you will know that Leyland products were just bloody awful with their colour choices and stuff. So we've done all that, and I've also painted a black circle there. There should be an air vent there in the dashboard, and HobbyBoss missed it out, so I've painted that in just as a black circle, and there we go. Door cards are in there, I believe. I can't remember now. It's been over a month since I worked on this, so you have to bear with me if I forget things. One thing I did want to do was fit the badge. Now, if you remember, I made some spare wheels, and if you bought a spare wheel free of charge, you got the badge. And unfortunately, I made the badge a little bit too deep. It's a little bit too deep this way. Okay, so I was looking at pictures of the real thing, and it's like the actual Scammell badge only really covers sort of two bars of the grill. And if you look at this one, have I got one here which is cut off? No, I haven't, Mr. Unprepared. But if you look at that one, you can see, if I put it next to the grill, you can see it's way too high. So what I've done, I've taken the Scammell badge and I've just sanded it down on the sides. So there we go. So now it's much slimmer. You can see it's the same thing, it's just slimmer in height. Okay, so you can see that there. Catch it in the shadow. You can see that it's slimmer in height, so that's easily done. And then, as luck would have it, it's kind of curved itself into the right shape, where it's, because it's so thin, as it dries over time. So what we're going to do is fit this in place, and I'm going to use this as my reference. In fact, what I'm going to do first of all is grab a sanding stick and sand this grill in the centre in an effort to get a better bite with the super glue, so we don't have it popping off all the time. We can put plenty of super glue on the back of it and sort of weld it in, as it were, but there we go. Right, so make sure it's the right way up, and it looks like we go from the top, miss one, it goes in there, and then on the sides we just want it equidistant, so we've got sort of 3.5 there. So I'm going to center it vertically around those two bars. There we go, just like so. So that's on like that, and then what we can do is take some tape and tape it down. It looks pretty good to me. We'll be able to look at it from behind and see what it's like. And there we are. And then looking at it from behind, we can see that it's all pretty good. I think maybe it could just go over to the left a touch. let me get this centralised and then I'll come back. You don't want to watch me doing this, do you? Alright, so there's our badge held in place on the grill. And as you can see, we've got one above and we should have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 below, 1, 2, 3 below. So that's looking good now. Compared to that grill there, we're looking good. Okay, so I don't actually sell these because I'm not sure about copyright and stuff. So please don't ask for one. I'm not doing the wheels anymore, so unfortunately that ship has sailed. The moulds had it and I don't really want to bother making another mould, so anybody who had one already, you were lucky. So that's going in there. You've got bloody hair on the... I hate this. You get a tiny little bit of fluff on your applicator for your super glue and you get glue everywhere. So we can put plenty of glue in there. Make sure that stays firmly welded on. And this is the VMS black thin I'm using here. There we go, we don't need to go out to the ends. And then hopefully that will actually capillary in under and do a grand job for us. You're not going to see inside the grill. Even if you did have an engine, the radiator would be in the way. So I'm not really too worried about how much glue I put on here, but the last thing I want is for this thing to ping off because that grill is quite flexible. That's why I'm putting plenty on. There we go. So that's our Scammell badge in place. So we can leave that to dry overnight. And that'll be that. And when I say overnight, it is quite late. It's just gone 11 o'clock. So that can go away. The other thing I want to do before I cease for the evening is when we look at this cab, this is going to be hard for me to explain, I think. The way they've got this still, you put in these uprights on this bed, and then you put in the bed into there, and then you're adding, you can see you're putting this rail in here, and you're just putting that up in there, and you can see they're showing here that this back here goes up against that. It's impossible, it can't. So what I want to try and do is get this built up and then build this onto that and then slot it up in, rather than do it the way they're suggesting, because there is no positive location whatsoever. So what we need to do is get these parts ready. So I've got the seats and everything. Where are the seats? They're here somewhere. They're in a bag, I think. Remember I did all the seats with the sexy tartan on them. They're in there, aren't they? No, I don't know where they are. I've got to find them. We've got the seats with all the sexy tartan on them, and then what we can do is this bit here. I'm not worried about these seats and everything. I just want to get these verticals attached. We've already got that bulkhead, that flat panel there glued to here. So what I can do is get those verticals on there and then get this up in here. You can see there's 2 pickup points there. So we can get that up in there and get it so that they cure, so they're set solid and they're not going to go anywhere. And I'm just looking at this now. We don't need the seat because it looks like these verticals go into these slots down in here. And nothing to do with the seat at all. So I'll get these off the sprue, and I'm not going to about paint them because I'm going to brush paint all this afterwards. So back in a sec. Alright, so when you look at this, you need to be very, very careful, because the way they've got this drawn here, that looks like that, doesn't it? It looks more like that. We've got this flat top and an angled bottom, but it's not. It's actually that. So it's that facing away from you, like so. So if I just bring this up to show you, when you look at that, it looks like that is sticking out, but it's not. It's actually sticking away from you. And on the bottom here, they've got these legs sticking out, but there's no such thing on there. So they look nothing like. You can see here, we've got this leg sticking out, sticking forward on the bottom of that one. Well, there's the part, and there's no leg on. There's a tiny little leg on there, but nothing much. So it's a little bit misleading. So I'm going to get some extra thin. I'm not going to use the quicksand. I'm going to use ordinary. I'm going to put a drop in there, and then I'm going to fit this one into here. So there's a little step on the back, and hopefully it all works out. If it fits well, I'll be amazed. And then this one can go in there. And from what I can gather from photos I've seen, this is going to support the end cushions, because you could have two beds, or you could have a seat here in the middle. So you could have two guys here sat next to each other, or you could have two guys asleep, one above the other. And the middle seat's folded down to make a backrest for this. Sorry, the middle of the bed folded down to make a backrest so they could use the lower bed as a seat. Right, so that's all glued up. And I'm going to put another drop of extra thinner because I want it to be a little bit strong, because I want to mess around with it. Okay. Right, so that's that. And now this I'm going to put up in here into its final position, which I don't know what its final position is. I'm guessing, is this going to tell me its final position? Is that there going to be how far in it goes? I just don't know. It's all so bloody vague. So that can go into there like that. Right. Okay, and the front's going to sit on there. That's good. So the back is determined by that rear piece, and the front is determined by a button up to the bulkhead. So I'm going to grab a couple of little bits of 6mm masking tape. Oh, come off. And take that there. And take that one there so they stay in position. And now you can see now how these things are out. You can see in there, they're not actually in their holes. So we can grab our tweezers and pull them over. Have to lift the floor, I think. So that one can go in there. That one can go in there. So now we're all set. And they are glued to that base and nothing else. So we're going to have to be really careful that we don't snap them off. I'm going to use a paintbrush. Find a little paintbrush. And then put that in there like that. I want them to be absolutely solid. So that is how that's going to go. So there we are, and I'm just in case a thief comes in the night and moves it, or Jess decides she wants to play tank transporters. Let's tape that in place. So now they can dry in their correct position, and then we know it's all going to go together okay. And what I'm hoping to do now is fit those seats. See, it doesn't even show you how they go. I think these corners here, these cutouts, I think they're going to go onto those supports. But we shall have to see. I'm not sure what this is. PEA6, I think that's curtains, isn't it? PEA6 is mesh, so we'll have to paint them up as well. Not colour, it's probably going to be black nylon mesh. We've got that railing there, which is going to go somewhere. There's nowhere for it to go. I don't even know what it's going to glue to, because I think that railing there is halfway up that back window, or at least a third of the way up the bottom. So this is the thing, it's going to be so difficult to do. I think probably the best thing to do is put that cushion in there, the long one, and then sit those on top of that cushion with that. So glue that onto there with just those two cushions, and then we can fit them into there, and perhaps glue these cushions to the seat without gluing it to the cab. Well, I don't know how we're going to do this. If they'd have just given us a couple of lugs in the body, in the cab, for that to sit on, then we'd know where we're going, wouldn't we? But there is absolutely nothing at all. And this is just, you know, as you can see on the instructions here, I know I'm moaning a lot, guys, but they're showing you that going into that corner. How can that possibly be? You can see here that mesh is not in the corner, it's further forward, it's just in front of the side of that window. So yeah, and remember guys, I haven't actually glued these at the top. So those surrounds are going to be painted black, the uprights are going to be painted black, and then you've got the brackets at the bottom, they'll be painted black. So I'm going to leave that to dry overnight, and then what we'll do tomorrow, we'll come back and have another look and see where we go and get all this together. Alrighty then, next day now, got some painting done. So I've done all my photo etch, some etch primer first for what it's worth, and then did the Mr. Surfacer Black 1500 over the top. There's our Scammell grill, looking all nice. So that's looking good. I've also done the bonnet and the cab. They were all pre-primed, but I'd forgotten to do the whole cab, so I just went over there. And I said I was going to brush paint these. I couldn't resist it. I went in with some masks and sprayed them. And there's going to need to do a bit of a touch-up on the green there. But oh no, I'm going to put some black in there as well, so I am going to end up doing a bit of brush painting. But never mind. In fact, that area there would be a little bit damaged anyway, I should imagine. So there we go, so now we can move on. So they're on there now nice and solid, which is good. And I can just plop that floor into there, just like so. And I know that those legs, he says, oh, it's out at the back, that's why. I know those legs are going to line up. And there we go. They have lined up and they are in there, which is good. In fact, the floor has come forward. There we are, that's better. Push that leg forward, there we go, that goes in just like so. So now what I can do is look at actually building up this these extra seats and stuff. And what I'm going to do, I think, I've done the crossbar there is in black. I've got a feeling that all of these brackets and stuff inside, we've all seen it in older sort of 80s vehicles where bracketry all had this like black, just a black semi-gloss paint on it that just flaked off within about 10 minutes. So yeah, my plan is now is to fit the rear bench here to the base, and then fit these two here to this cross piece, and then turn them upside down from the right way up, if you like, and have them resting against the back of the cab but glued to the bottom of there. And then when I take this out, I should end up with that seat and those two cushions and the crossbar going across, and then I can add those, and then I can add the photo etch, and we'll see if that works out better. The other thing I've noticed, I've done some, as you know, I've sprayed this with some black primer, and as you can see on there now, we've got sig marks. Yay! We love sig marks, don't we? This thing's bloody covered in them. Ejector pin marks and sig marks is what this kit is all about. So we will get rid of them. I think the cab roof is okay. Yeah, the cab roof is fine. But this bonnet needs to be sorted out, so I'll get that sorted. What I'll do is I'll cover that in super glue and then sand it rather than use filler. I'll cover that area there with super glue and with the black thin, and then I'll just use the ordinary black, and then we'll sand it out nice and flat. I use super glue these days on my ejector pin marks and everything, guys, because what I'm finding is Mr. Surfacer is great, but as it dries it shrinks. So, you know, you might get it so that it's all nice and sanded back, and then over a couple of days it shrinks back. The other thing I'm finding, if you give it a nice coat of wet primer like I have with this, the solvents in this attack the Mr. Surfacer, and you actually end up with your sink mark coming back. I've also just noted there is a mould line around here. Look, you've got a mould line. See it? All the way around. There's a mould line all around there, so that's going to have to be sanded off. I'll just show you quickly. I just quickly sand across the front edge of the bonnet. You can see there is a mould line. Whether it's supposed to be there or not, I'm not sure. I'll have to check the references, because there's also a seam on the side here. I'm so glad I primed this, because I'm finding loads. So yeah, there's a seam. There's a seam there as well. Now, this was a moulded fiberglass bonnet, so it may well have lines in it and stuff, but I'm sure that seam down the side isn't supposed to be there. I've got a feeling that one there maybe is supposed to be there. We'll have a look at some reference pics and we'll go from there. Okay, so we can see here in my book, this is the Military Trucks Archive. Come on, I'd learn to talk. And we can see there's a picture of the bonnet up, and we can see there are no mould lines on there whatsoever. It is worth noting though, they've got some tape on there for grip, so they can walk across the bonnet to clean the windscreen, I'm guessing. So, I'm not sure how many had that. Certainly not. So you can see another one there, there's no mould lines at all. So yeah, right, so we will get those sanded out. So I've got filling there to do, sanding around there to do. So I'm glad I primed that bonnet, so glad. That seam line also runs up there, look. Remember, this is like a car body, it's bound to have seam lines because it's slide moulded. And just in case somebody asked me in my Das Werk 1/16 SDKFC 251 review, what is slide moulding, and I'm going to tell you what it is now, and to ask me that as a question in the comments, it would take me an hour to write the answer. Okay, so you have a sprue. Okay, here is a sprue. This is part of a sprue, and as you can see, this is moulded in two halves. There is a seam around the middle. I'm going to put slide mould in the title so you know that I'm talking about it. There's a seam all around there, and what happens is you have two halves of a tool, and they have the female of this cut into the surface. So the two halves of the tool come together, and they're hollow, and then plastic is injected from one side. And the plastic runs through all the hollow cavities and everything, fills them up. It's left time to cure, cool, whatever. Some people get funny about my terminology. Left time to cure, cool, whatever. And then the mould opens and the part falls out. Okay, so that is just general basic injection moulding for, you know, that's how your spoons are made, and most plastic things you buy, if they're not printed, they're going to be injection moulded. So that's how it's done, and as a result of that, you get a seam all the way around. On every single part there is a seam. Now the trouble is, as you can see here on this little bracket, I don't know if you can see it, but that is supposed to be bolt heads. So you can imagine if they moulded a bolt head, like a single bolt head sticking up, when the mould tool came away, it would rip the top off the bolt head. So that's why you have slide moulding. And what you would basically do, you would make this the other way round, okay? And you would have, in fact, what I'll do is I'll cut this off here to make it easier for you to understand. Okay, so that's made in a normal tool, so it's come apart like that, and it can't produce the detail you want. But if you wanted to produce the 4 bolt heads, what you would do, you would have a mould tool. Let's do it vertically, because the mould, it can be vertical or horizontal, the mould tool. So say this is the bottom, the top comes down, the plastic is injected, it comes apart, and that's what you get. If you want to produce those 4 bolt heads individually, what you would have is the tool coming down, it would close, and then another cut part would come in from the side, okay, and then it would mould, and then that side would come out, and that would come up, and that is what's called slide moulding. Sometimes you can have 4, 5, 6 sliders all coming in together like this. The tool shuts, the side come in, and then the sliders open and the top comes out and you get a really complex shape. It's like you can see on this cab, this is one piece other than a couple of bits I glued inside, but this is one piece. So as you can see, we have detail on this face, we have detail on this face, we have detail on this face, and we have detail on this face. We also have detail on the top, and we have detail on the inside. So you can imagine how complex this mold tool is. So basically, you've got like imagine a big fist lump of steel, okay, up in the middle. So that's going to give you all your roof design, roof detail there. But if you notice, there's no detail on the sides. You've got this detail here. You've got this detail running up here vertically. That's easy because it can slide out, but you can't have anything going across here because it would rip it out as it comes out. So you can imagine anything that goes in the flow of the direction of the tool is okay to mold, but if it goes across it as it comes out, it will just rip it out. So you've got a big slug of tool there, big slug of steel at the middle, okay, and then you'll have a top cavity that comes down, and that will stop, however thick that is, say 1 millimetre, 1.5 millimetres short, and that will give you your top. Okay, so now if you put that up there, you've got the top comes down here like this, and in that cavity there in between my hands, that'll give you the roof. But if you try to mold all this detail on the side like that, as soon as you open the tool, you can imagine it is impossible to do those window openings and have something come vertically away. It has to come that way. Same with all this detail here. So what you'd have is a base. Say this is molded horizontally. You'd have a base with a lump of steel sticking up. You'd have a top come down. You'd have a slider come in here, slider come in here, slider come in here, slider come in here. That makes up the tool. Then you inject the plastic, let it cool, cure, whatever, and then you'd open up all those sliders and the top would come away and you end up with that. Now that tool would cost many, many thousands of pounds because it would be very, very complex. The downside to slide molding, as you can see here, okay, we have a mold seam there. We have a mold seam down there. There will be a mold seam along that edge there. Down there, along there. There's one there, across there. And there will be one. There's a mold seam on that corner there and across there. So basically the front part molded within those lines there. This side molded within those lines there. The rear molded within those lines there. This side in there. And the top was within those lines that I've just marked out for the sides. So that's the thing, and that's how bodies are made. That's how model car bodies are made. And that's why whenever you build a model car, you must first go over and check. You'll generally have seams running up from in front of the front wheels, around onto the top of the headlights, along the edges of the bonnet, up the windscreen pillars, along the sides of the roof, down the back, across the back, and then down the sides. So basically car bodies are generally made top, bottom, side, back, front. Okay, and that's your lesson on slide molding. So that's what slide molding is all about. If I remember to put it in the title. If I forget, please remind me and I will edit the title of the video, because somebody was asking about slide molding and here we are, I've explained it. There we are. Hope you enjoyed that. Right, back on with this model. So what we need to do is, I'll get all these sanded out. I'll do that off camera. There's no point in you sitting there watching me do some sanding. So I need to get this this seat here. And I think we're going to have to start using our lovely tartan seats. So I'm going to get this here, and that is going to go basically onto there, like that. Okay. And then these cushions here, let's get all these cushions out. Got our front seats there. These cushions here are going to go like that against the back, and that rail is going to be glued across the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is get that rail glued on, rest that in there, put the floor in, and then let it fall down and try and somehow glue these onto that base. It's going to be a nightmare. But we will get there. I will show you how I do it when we get there. We've got to make sure that is in there to space it all out as well. There we go. Make sure that stays in there as well. So I think what I'll do is get a little piece of tape. I've got little pieces of tape over here that I've saved from my previous escapades. And we'll just take that in just to make sure it stays in place. Okay. In fact, I'm wondering if I could actually glue that to that base. And build this up as a box. I'll have a look. Okay, now I'm hoping I'm not going to eat my words here. You may now be watching me seriously cock this model up, or you may be watching me come up with an easier solution. Now, this goes inside here, and this goes inside here, and this rear panel is what the floor sits on. So what I'm thinking is, if I glue this onto here, okay, and then fit it into the cab and let it set, I have now got a box to build my seats on without having to mess around and try and get jiggery-pokery. Because the big problem is, you see, if I do it this way round, and if I put this in here and then put that in there, and I try, how do I get those seats glued to that without getting glue everywhere? That's the problem. If I can have it out here and build it on the bench in front of me, I could have just found a solution that maybe HobbyBoss could change their instructions. So yeah, right, that's going to happen. So what I'm going to do here is just scrape across and remove the paint from there to get a good joint, because it's not a massive contact area. And then here I'm just going to sand away any paint residue. Now that bottom edge is going to be hidden by that seat, so I'm not really too worried about how that looks. I think what I might do is just dry fit this seat into position. So I'd rather not have it glued in, which is possibly unavoidable, because I want to be able to remove it to paint that touch up on the bottom of there. But I could be asking a bit much here. So I can line this up on there, and then I can come in with some extra thin quick setting and run that into that joint, and hopefully it doesn't glue itself to that seat padding. If it does, it does, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that can sit there, butted up against that seat padding. I'm going to put some more glue. I want a really strong joint here. I know what you're thinking, if you want a really strong joint, why are you using quick setting? Because I want it to dry quickly. Right. So now I can put this in this cab like so. Get those posts to align. In the roof. I know some of you are going to be commenting. I tend to do this, don't I? I completely take the instructions and completely change everything. And believe me guys, it's not for the sake of it. I just want to try and make life a bit easier. Now, with that in there, like that, we'll put another piece of tape. Come here, tape. We'll put another piece of tape in here. Hold that in place, and then what we can do is with a cocktail stick we can just push this back, make sure it's up against the back wall, and I think we may have just found a solution. Now can I pop this seat out, or has it glued itself in? Nope, I can pop that out of there, no trouble at all. So that's good news as well. So we'll put it back down because we know it hasn't glued itself in. And there we are. So we'll leave that to set for half an hour, and then I'm going to see if I can put these side pieces in as well. Maybe I'm hoping for a bit much there. Right, see you in a second. Okay, so as you can see, there's the bonnet, and it's been sanded within an inch of its life. You can see I found some more little low areas here, here, across here. That's all super glue in there, sanded back now. So we'll give that another good thick coat of primer and it should be good to go. We shall see. It's a pretty ugly thing, this, really, isn't it? It's not as good looking, in my opinion. It's not as good looking as like an M1070 or a 911. So what I've done, I've got the sides in here temporarily put in. In fact, I better go and wash my hands because they're covered in black dust. Hang on a second. So I fitted these side panels in here. You can see those side panels inside there. They're all done. So let's get this tape off. You see, you don't have to throw your tape away. You can reuse it time and time and time again, especially when it's only for assembly. So I put those in there to help with alignment. So I should be able to now press this floor out, and that back should stay in place. Okay, so now can I remove this bench so that I don't run the risk of getting any glue on it? Yes, I can. There we go. And I think what I'm going to do is plonk all these seats back in their bag a minute, because I'd hate to, after all that painting, I'd hate to have the glue drip on them, as you've seen happen. You can see there's one there, there's one there. So that's that in place. I'm just going to quickly push this back in because it does seem to be leaning forward, and I guess that's going to be okay. Yep. So that's that. So I might even just give it a little bit of a tweak back, just so when it goes in, it's sort of forced over a bit. Now these side panels here, they go in kind of like this. Kind of like that, and they butt up to the outside of that. So I think what I'm going to try and do is actually glue these in as well, and that might give me something to attach. Actually, no, it won't at all, will it? But what it will do, it'll allow me to fit those seat belts a lot nicer. So I think that's going to butt up on the outside of here, flush with the back edge. Because it's the window openings that determine its position. So I don't know where to glue it. I think what I'll do is glue it here, not there, because if I slide it around we're going to get glue marks. So if I glue it down there only, and the same on this side. This would be great if this works, because it'll make assembly of the interior so much easier. And also when it comes to fitting the seat belts, as you can see, we have to put the bottom of the seat belt against the side of the cab, which is actually on here, and the top goes actually into the cab, and then the bottom comes back onto the cab. So what we can do here is actually fit it all up when it's fully together. I could actually put that one in beforehand. We shall see. But yeah, there may be no advantage whatsoever in using this. So we shall see. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this in position. If it will stay there. And I'm going to put a drop of extra thin on that bottom edge. Because when it goes inside the cab, that pushes up tight against there. We'll do the same on this one. I'm not gluing the back edge because, as I say, when I slide it, would you please stay there? Would that be possible? When I slide it forwards and backwards, if I put glue on that back side panel, it's going to it's going to leave a mark. Make sure there's no glue on there. Make sure my fingers aren't holding any glue. So as you can see, this is now sticking out of the back and it's butted up against there, but I think when I put this in, I think it's going to want to come forward. Not come forward and sort of, you know, testify. Just move forward, as in a direction towards the front. So they've gone in, that's my main thing. That floor can come back. So now this side panel can be pushed along, as can that one. And they are glued in at the sides, but they're only glued on at the bottom, or at the side. We're going to move those. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. It's probably not much fun to watch, but for those that have this kit and want to try and do it this way, then it'd be interesting for you to watch. So that base is going to have to come out, so we're going to have to glue that to the floor. Oh, hang on, the side panels have got to come in. That's what it is. It's not the sides have got to go out, the sides have got to come in. There we go. When it all comes together, you can see the sides of, there's a step in the floor there, and I haven't got the floor fully up, which is why I should have it taped as I did before. Lazy sod. Right. I'm going to pull that into there, like so, and I'm going to pull that one into there, like so, and let that all dry in that position. You know, wait for another 10 minutes, probably gonna get something to eat, it's lunchtime. And we're back. Right, had some lunch, job done. I've actually had this apart and put some glue down the sides, so we'll see how that's worked out. Just drop this floor out, and now you can see we've got quite a strong little assembly, and we've actually, now what we've done, we've built up the interior and we're ready to go. So I'm just going to put some more cement in here, just so we make sure we've got a nice strong joint during our assembly process. No real touch up to do, everything's come out lovely. I haven't glued these bottoms to the floor here because they just stay there on their own, and I'm kind of thinking that's all going to stay and be good. We've got some black super glue over here, so I'm going to put that in there because we do have a very small gap. It's wanted to, the side panel has wanted to find its own place. It's the same on this side, look, it's just slightly lifted out square with the floor, but that'll help just to give it some strength. What I don't want it to do is move. Oh dear, there's Jess sneezing in the background. Yeah, what I don't want it to do is move while we're playing with it, sort of thing. So I'm going to let that super glue, there's a bit too much on there, isn't there? I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll sand it out, and I'll come back. As you can see, we've basically built up a shell now that we can put all our seats in, and then just drop the cab on top. So I'm quite glad I've done this, and I would suggest this is probably the way to go, unless you keep watching me and realise that it's not the way to go, as you may see in 1 or 2 videos time. So if you are building this at the moment, hold fire. Alright, so that's all dry and sanded out, as you can see, so it's got nice strong sides in there now. So everything is nice and rigid. So let's just see, this seat should just drop in here. Or bed, should I call it? Bed, seat, whatever it is. So that should just drop in. Let's grab a cocktail stick so we don't scratch any of the paint. go, that's gone in. Make sure the back is fully down, that's the most important bit. My hair on there. Okay, so that's all fully down, so we got our seat in there now. You can see we're starting to build an interior, not the way HobbyBoss wanted it. Now, these back rests here, they sort of fold up to make a bed, or they fold down to turn the middle into a seat, as I said earlier. And this is the problem, because what HobbyBoss wanted to do is fix this in here, but there is absolutely no reference whatsoever where it goes. Now remember as well, I filled in the back of these seats because when you look, when they go in, as you can see, they are going to sit against that base at the bottom. If I put the finger on, when you look through the back window, that's what you're going to see. So if you just leave them like this, like with the hollow backs, you're going to see just a hollow back, which won't look good at all. You can see that's what you're going to see compared to the filled in back. So that's why I filled them in. But I've also noticed now that when these seats go in here, they are going to sit. Let's grab my tweezers. Let's put some masking tape on them so they don't scratch that paint. When these seats sit in here, like so, we are going to look through the side windows and we're going to be able to see underneath there, so I'm going to have to do the back of them as well. So basically now, this is going to go into here. I'm just looking, when those hinges line up, I may actually be able to clip this on. The hinges are a very nice fit. I clip it that way and then maybe fold it up. No, they won't stay on that way. They'll stay on that way, as you can see, but they won't stay on at 90 degrees. But basically that seat there is going to go into here. And if I hold it in place there, you can see that when you look through the side window, you're going to be able to see underneath that hollow bottom. So I'm going to get them filled in and painted to look the same as these. I wish I'd done it earlier, but never mind. But we'll get some masking tape onto here to protect the tartan. Probably should be calling it tartan, I'm probably offending someone. But we'll just cut this tape off, just like so, just to leave a little bit on there like that. And then we can curl the edges round, and that'll protect our checker pattern, shall we call it. Come off, go away. Masking tape, it sticks to everything except for what you want it to stick to. So there we go, there's that in there, like that. There we go. It's a helicopter. That's not a helicopter. That sounds like a Spitfire or something. Let me have a look. I put my radar scanner thing on and it came up with some stupid bloody advert right in the middle of the screen. I couldn't get rid of it. By the time I'd done that, they'd gone, but they don't seem to have their beacon on anyway. So I don't know what it was. There was like 3 of them. It sounded like 3 single engine prop planes. So maybe they're I gotta go look at this. It sounds like something bigger is coming now. Wow. Well, that was what I saw. What I thought was something bigger coming was an Apache, and it was like 5 feet off the ground, going at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. So that was what I heard. The others must have also been Apaches, but they sounded. I've never actually heard an Apache fly over before, and they sounded like single engine. Sounded like Spitfires or Messerschmitts or. Sound like single engine World War II fighters. Anyway, where were we? So I'm going to fill these in now and get them painted and everything, and then I'll come back, I think, for part 14, because This is just like a lot of my models seem to be. It's like 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, isn't it? But I'm hoping that this is going to work. So I won't make you wait like I have this time. We waited like a month and a half for this. I'll make you wait for much less time. But basically these are going to have to go in, and these are going to have to be glued in, something like that. And they stay in place, and then there'll be a mesh in front of them, and somehow these are going to attach to there. I think we may have to put a rod through or something just to give it some rigidity, because obviously if you put the cab down and that's just glued on that tiny those little pins at the back, it's just going to snap off. So I'm not quite sure how that is supposed to locate into there, but it does somehow. If the instructions were a bit more positive, it would be a help, but no. Right, thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe. If you don't like what you see, hit the thumbs down. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up. It's all the same. If you think you're giving me a hard time by putting a thumbs down, you're not. It's all a reaction. It's worth every click you do. It's great. So if you really want to get at me, don't do anything. So right. As I say, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon for part 14. And just in case you're wondering, here she is. There's the chassis. She's still all in one piece, all ready to go. Wheels ready to fall off. Because I haven't glued these wheels on, because I'm hoping and praying somebody's going to come out with some resin wheels. If it comes out really nice, I think it'll be worthy of some resin wheels, because those tyres are bloody horrible. So, as you can see, they're not very nice at all. I think it's what we're going to have to make do with. If you remember, we've got the steering working as well. So anyway, I'll see you all soon, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.